Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We have with us today the political leader of the ILP, and we were discussing the role and functions of the Senate and whether we need a Senate at all. We were talking also about proportional representation and the first past the system. Lyndira, one of the things that you had said, first of all, is about having, we must have a Senate so that it provides the checks and balances almost. Mm-hmm. What about a possibility of having a parliament elected under the first past the post system of, let's say, 100 members, no Senate at all? That parliament would make laws, scrutinize the government, pass the budget, and the government would not come from the parliament. So you would have two elections in effect. These obviously are just ideas we're throwing out. One for the Prime Minister, who can then get her cabinet and her ministers together, and they will run the day-to-day business of the country. And then we have a parliament elected under PR, proportional representation, so that, let us say, 100 members. We're saying that we have no Senate. 100 members that will be there to scrutinize the government. So, for example, if you get 8,000 votes, or your group, let's say the group, which is the farmers, get 8,000 votes, they get one seat in the parliament. That way, it would be more perhaps reflective of the entire country, and would still be able to hold the government to account, because as we were discussing with what the Ramadan Constitutional Reform Commission has proposed, lovely, interesting things, PR, equal numbers, some first past the post here and then, all quite confusing, but it still does not show us how to hold the government to account. You think if we had a complete separation of the parliament and the government, that would be the parliament's job? And we actually, under PR, because with PR you don't have constituencies, we won't have a constituency, but we have an entire reform of local government election, and let councillors and aldermen, forgive me, look after the needs of road and water and lights and things. Do you think this is a possibility at all?
You've raised several issues, and the first one is the way in which the selection or election of officers in the first place. I do not believe that any system of proportional representation can follow a first past the post system. Having said that, I think we have to be
What do you mean by follow it? It has to be one or the other. No, it cannot come out of it.
It cannot come out.
Absolutely not.
So the expression of getting the election of a prime minister, for example, out of a first past the post system, I am saying at this point, and this is an academic discussion, not necessarily a manifesto.
Of course, it will take ages.
So as a political leader,
of course,
I have to articulate what my thoughts are, and this is what I'm doing.
Of course.
So if it is that we have first past the post system, which is what we have now, it cannot work. The suggestion or alternative that I could suggest is that we do have a system of proportional representation. It would work in this way. You have your constituencies.
Okay.
You do have 41 constituencies, let's say. When it's time for election, you have a system of single vote, single candidate, where if there are 3 parties, each party nominates one person. On each constituency, different constituencies, so one name. You then, as the voter, when you go to vote, you don't choose one. You rank that.
But isn't it going to be that I'm going to choose the one my party? If my party is UNC, again, I wouldn't vote. I would not choose a second or third choice because I want my party to win.
This is not a process of education.
Sure,
is required before that, and so people will have to understand and buy into this idea. But let's just flesh out the idea.
If
so
theoretically
the idea
would
is,
vote
let's
for
say you
first
have
and
3 names
choice.
on that list. You do first, second, and third. You tally then all the firsts by numbers, and you can agree or have your law that identifies that all the largest numbers with the ones go to the lower house. In the second tally, you would tally the highest number of 2s then you can identify that those go to your Senate. And in the third one, there will be alternative. For example, when you have temporary senators, you have alternatives if there is for any reason, just like the aldermen, you come up here. But there, out of 3 or 4, how many candidates on that ballot sheet? Your members of parliament, both in the lower house and in the upper house, would be more representative.
Is this so that the votes would not be wasted?
Exactly.
Because we were speaking about this, and Mr. Abdullah, who you both are saying more or less the same thing. He was saying about the votes, because under the first past the post system, we have a winner takes all.
Correct.
And you can actually find the majority of people not actually voting for the person who wants, yet that is the person in the parliament. So you're trying to find a balance almost, so for all the votes to count.
In the first past the post system, it is the only parliamentary or electoral process that allows such a high level of safe seats. When you have safe seats, and you have what we call tribal voting in this country.
Yes.
Right? So you have safe seats. What happens is that there are persons who live in constituencies that are considered safe seats who may not support the party that they believe to be the one having the safe seat. And they might not even want to cast their vote. Now, first past the post system, therefore, is directly linked to low voter turnout.
Correct.
Proportional representation is the counter to that. If you believe that even though you don't get the first choice, but your party, because remember, it's 2 set of numbers you're dealing with.
Yes.
That your party will have
a voice,
second majority,
a say,
and that is the person who, based on the numbers, will actually be going either to the lower house or the upper house. Then it means that the onus is on the political parties, not only the main party, but on all. The third thing, proportional representation is about the only system that favors and works well for coalition governments. It is, because when you have smaller parties, it is then that they can work together to pass better laws.
And on that point, which I'm glad you took us there, I have to say the ILP has done very well since its formation in a very short period of time. And this is not, and I have to always tell the callers, this is not because I'm promoting the ILP, this is based on statistics. Sure. We have seen Mr. Warner win the UNC heartland of Chaguanas West with 69% of the votes cast, compared to 28% of the votes received by the UNC.
That's right.
The first time in the country's history, a true heartland constituency deserted the party. I don't know if you want to answer for the ILP or in your own political experience, why do you think that happened?
That's a simple answer, Mickela. The UNC believed that those in government who are UNC determined the choice of the candidates, when in fact it was the 33 party groups or the 31 party groups of the very UNC that nominated Mr. Warner. So when you ignore the party groups in the very party of the UNC, and you come right back and you say, well, I'm going to ignore these party groups that want Mr. Warner, you ignore them because some members in your government believe that they can impose a candidate of the UNC in that constituency. The party is what voted for Mr. Warner.
And then the people spoke.
The supporters,
okay,
correct.
That is the constituency of Chaguanas West. We have seen the UNC, the People's Partnership, get trounced in the Tobago elections. That's slightly different to Chaguanas West. They've lost the St. Joseph seat constituency to the PNM.
And local government
elections.
And
6 local government corporations out of, they had 11, lost 6, and now on 5. That can't be the same reason they lost Chaguanas West. So what is happening? What is happening? This is not what happens to a party in power. You tend to see it happening to the party, the opposition party,
correct,
because they don't have the funds or they don't. What has happened within this short period of time? What, in your view?
Well, there's been a lot of disenchantment with the functioning of the partnership as a whole. And there are some areas in the local government election that were fought under UNC ticket, some under the COP. Those were the only two parties that fought in the local government election. There's been a lot of dissatisfaction, a lot of disenchantment, and despite being, as you rightly say, a party in government, now in the total figures, just approximately, you had about 450,000 voters that voted in the whole of the local government election.
Yes.
When you come down and you look at the statistics, that represents 41% voter turnout in a local government election. The one thing that was different was actually a third party.
And from that, we enter a lovely part of our discussion. The only thing different, as you say, was a third party. What do you say to those detractors and people who say the ILP is only about splitting the UNC votes and that your party's actions are motivated by sour grapes?
Yeah.
What is your response as the political leader to that?
Well, as a political leader, I mean, if I look back at the 102,000 persons who voted, clearly they don't have that view. Clearly they saw something that offered a more attractive alternative. And when we look at what is happening in the politics, far more persons are more aware, they are more politically educated, they have given up on the tribal type of things. And so people are saying, we want to see something different. Okay. We want to see the ILP here, we believed in it. This party was less than 6 months old. And you go into a local election.
And you've done so well.
And we've done extremely well. And I could tell you one thing, no other political party, and I make no bones about this, no other political party is meeting continuously the people in the ground, the communities. No other party has been doing...
I think the PNM might disagree with you.
No, I'm telling you, they're doing it quietly.
But our time is up. Our time is up, Lyndira. And I would like to close with asking a question. Would you say that the ILP has replaced the COP as this country's third party?
That's a given. I mean, look at the results of the last election. That is a given. We definitely have far more. We have more credibility. We have far to go. We have a lot of work to do. We are not afraid of the work. And we have very strong and committed people in the party.
And that's where we will see when the elections come up, where we go to. Thank you so much, Lyndira, for being here. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we shall see you again next week. Thanks again. Bye-bye.